I've I have to say I've seen at least 100 log homes that have never been completed because of exactly what you're talking about.
Wow, did you just catch that? That's a clip of what's to come on this interview with Herb Meeker on the very first episode of the Log Home Network podcast. My name's Dana, and we're joined with a guest who's been in the industry for decades, over 35 years of experience, Herb Meeker. Stay tuned, buckle in, and enjoy this. Let's learn about log homes together right here. Welcome to the Log Home Network podcast, where we help you realize your log home dreams by way of education, discussion, and interviews with log home industry experts. Grab some coffee, tea, or whatever you like to drink, and let's learn about log homes together. Herb Meeker, you have been in the industry for some time. Why don't you give us a snapshot, if you can, like really take us back to how you got started in log homes, how you got started, and you had Meeker Logs. Is that still a thing? I'm not sure, but give us Herb Meeker. What makes up Herb Meeker, and why are you passionate about the log home industry?
Well, I am passionate about the industry, and it goes back a ways. I mean, I tell the story sometimes, and people go, "Well, I wasn't even born when you were starting in this," and so it seems like a long journey now. But I was in the custom home business, building both speculation homes and custom homes in the Visalia area, which is in Central California, and kind of a farming community, not a real high-end community, but was building those homes for attorneys and doctors, and really not liking what I was doing. I mean, these are people that are competing against their other people in the industry, wanting a bigger and nicer house. And I was tired of putting in pink tile and mauve carpets. And I had a friend that had recently become a dealer for Real Log Homes, which at the time was the larger log home manufacturer in the industry in the early 80s. And so I had worked in the construction industry with him, and he had moved back to Texas after he got married, and we'd stayed in touch. And he said, "Well, he goes, I'm moving back to California." He goes, "Why don't you, see about becoming a dealer also?" Because at that time, Real Log Home had quite a dealer network across the United States, and even in the world, they had dealers in Europe and Japan and things like that. So I became a dealer and representative and started selling log homes in 1984. So that was kind of the start of my journey into log homes. And the more I got into log homes, the less custom homes I was doing. So I kind of divided my time in both directions for a while. But one thing that was kind of interesting is I went and told my banker what I was doing, and he goes, "Well, seems like log homes are a little bit beneath what you've been doing, these custom homes." He kind of felt like they were cabins. And I said, "You know what? This industry is changing. I kind of feel like I'm, in on the ground floor, and I think it's going to grow substantially." And it did. It was quite an industry, and at least on the West Coast, it's been definitely an up and down journey. But, in the late 70s and 80s, there were quite a few manufacturers that moved or built facilities on the West Coast, 3 in California, several in Oregon and Idaho. And so it was a kind of a boom time in the log home industry, and both in the custom homes, but initially it was kit homes, but most of them were manufactured, although the handcrafted homes, sold a lot of homes in California in the late 80s, 90s, and even into the early 2000s. So I was, part of that, to where we developed a team where we were doing design in-house. We'd outsource the engineering, which is required in California. And then, the permit processing pretty much became a design build company for doing log homes. And we did a few conventional homes and did a lot of mountain homes too, that maybe didn't have log walls, but they had log accents or log details about them. So as that industry, grew and it boomed the biggest probably in the early 2000, where we were selling eight, nine. One year we sold 12 homes and had up to 22 employees. And so it developed into quite a business, although that all changed in 2008 with the Great Recession and the change up of the industry, where more than half of the manufacturers went out of business in the years following that. And probably, I would say 2/3 of the dealer representatives like myself went out of business too, just because the whole industry changed and mortgages dried up, and it was quite a change in the industry. But back in 1990, I had gone to a real log home dealers meeting in Denver, California, and the owner of Permachink Industries or Permachink Systems was there, who was Rich Dunstan, and he was trying to expand his network of people that would fix log homes that were in trouble. And so in 1990, I had not sold but one log home that year. So I told Rich, I said, well, I'm interested. He goes, well, I got leads for you. He said, if you want to meet me at Los Angeles, pick me up at the airport. He goes, I got 3 homes to go see. And so 2 weeks later, I picked him up at the airport, went and looked at these 3 homes and bid the projects and got 2 of them. And that was kind of my start into the log home restoration industry, which includes both replacement of logs, media blasting, power washing, refinishing, eave extensions, porch for protection, chinking, rechinking, kind of the whole gamut of redoing a older log home or historic log homes, or just adding on to a log home was included in that too. So
Okay.
that kind of became my journey into restoration. So
Yeah. So, and I just got off the phone today with a company, Log Masters, which I'm hoping to actually bring them on and do a podcast with them. One of the technicians, to talk about the whole maintenance side of this, which it seems like it's a whole nother animal. And that when you were doing these log homes, there's a huge difference. We know there's a vast difference in quality of material and the level of the build, what actually gets provided to the customer. There's a vast difference. And Herb, right. I am a total noob to this industry. I'm a greenhorn. I know technology. I know how to build platforms. But when it comes to like the log home industry in general, I have just been on a quest to learn as much as I can about the industry. And what I found is like there's just such a tremendous difference. Like some would provide maybe a shell, and some would be like complete turnkey. When you talk about these 12 log home packages being sold in a given year, is that complete like turnkey?
They were different. Some of them, we actually sold to owners that had their own contractors. So we would get involved in the design and the permit process. And then when the log package arrived, we would give them a couple days to help their builder put up the package. So that was, one way these packages were sold. Sometimes it was just an enclosed shell to where we put it up so it was ready for a roof. That was kind of another, type of package that was sold. And then there was the complete turnkey package, which was pretty much, start to finish and hand them the keys and ready to move in. So if the project was farther away, we didn't necessarily do turnkeys because of the difficulty of managing a project that's 3 hours away. But if it was within a couple hours, we typically did turnkey or managed it to the point where it was ready to the dry-in was the term used,
sure.
But has a roof on it, the windows on it is essentially what that term means.
Right. Dry-in basically is you can get inside and be dry and work on the rest of the structure, from what I understand. So that was going on, and then 2008 hits. And by the way, to kind of like parallel this story here, Mike Varney, who owned loghome.net, who's now passed, who's now has passed. He was a good friend of mine, and
Okay.
I met him because of what happened in 2008 when
Okay.
the housing market fell apart. He decided to get into tech, and so he was working as in IT in a
Oh,
school up in Holton, Maine, and I came in as the director at that as of IT. He worked under me,
oh,
and then as I'm talking to this guy, he's like, "Oh yeah," he's like, "I own and operate loghome.net and mainvacations.com," and he starts listing out all these domains and stuff. I'm like, you're just lying to me. It's like, there's no way you own loghome.net. And then he's like, yeah. I pulled it up, and he'd purchased it back in the late 90s or early 2000s. But the log home industry had kind of got really crushed in that period, and there wasn't a whole lot of new action. And so was that the pivot point that brought you into the whole restoration scene?
really, I got into the restoration scene earlier in 1990, mainly because I was seeing just a lot of demand for, repairs and restoration and retrofits of log homes. So that was the reason. And it seemed a little bit of a conflict to me to be on the restoration side and selling new homes. But what all this did was really helped me see the problems of these new log homes that were coming out that did not have any overhangs. And builders, they were not cognizant of the location of this. If it was on a ridge and there was no protection from storms and they didn't have porches, and it took my level of log home design to kind of a new expertise, because I realized that I was building homes up to that time that were not well protected from the elements, and they were going to be maintenance headaches. And so it definitely helped me getting into the restoration business in the early 1990s, kind of refine what I was doing in the log home industry. Even though I kind of had the two businesses, separate crews, that we were still under the same name. It was Herb Meeker Builder back then. We incorporated in 2007, 2006, and we became Meeker Builders at that point. So,
Okay, so now bridge the gap here. It's been a while since 2008. Bridge the gap to where you're at now and what your focus is right now.
okay, so I actually helped start another business called Prolog Restoration, and that happened in 2004, 2006. And part of it was because I had so much work going in the new construction. I just felt like I was spread out. So we were selling projects for Prolog Restoration, and they grew quite large and were, associated with us. But in the 2008, even their business shut down substantially, back to where they were just a couple guys working. And so as I
Are you saying the
the
restoration the restoration side also got hit?
it did slow down, and it was
Okay.
because people didn't have money like they had. I mean, they had the liar loans that came in there in 2005 to 2008, and people were borrowing on the equity of their homes and adding on to log homes, or they would update it, change the windows, new roofs. Which by that time, the homes that were sold in the 1970s were needing improvements, because most of those had single glazed windows, or, the roofs needed redone. So that was kind of, the people didn't have the money that they had, in the years earlier, and banks weren't loaning, and things just changed in 2008 for that industry too, the restoration industry.
Okay, so and now what are you into now?
Well, in as the new log home industry, I could see it winding down. And so I ended up selling that side of my business in 2017 to a young man that had worked for me for 15 years and did a lot of my design and my selling, and he was good at managing projects. And so he kind of took that over. Plus, the projects were getting more complicated. I had four of my log homes in Log Home magazine, so I'd had them featured, and but they were definitely getting more complicated, to where some of these turnkey packages in 2008 were $1.5 million, $2 million projects, even with just a 3,000 square foot home. But because of the complication of the sites or all the amenities they were putting into them, and I was ready to kind of slow down. And so when I sold that business in 2017, I started out California Log Home Restoration, um, which is the website's loghomesrestored.com. But I started that and ran that business, through COVID, which COVID was actually huge for the log home restoration business in California because people were wanting to get out of San Francisco and LA. They didn't have to show up to work, and so they were buying homes in Tahoe and in the mountain regions of California. And in the year 20 2020, I did like 29 log home inspections for purchases. And that's where you go as the log home expert. You inspect it for any structural or rot or defects or things that the typical home inspector misses, or even the pest guy misses. So that stepped up considerably. And I probably did 20 inspections in 21 because through the whole COVID, there was just a lot of transactions of log homes in California. So as that business expanded, I still was kind of wanting to develop it so I could sell it. I mean, because I knew I didn't have a whole lot more years of lifting logs and running chainsaws on a daily basis. So especially in the difficult log repair situations. So I sold that to a young fella named Michael Alcaraz, who bought it and started California Log Homes California Log Home Restoration Incorporated. So that company, is still under his management today. I'm involved in it as a vice president and still, review the bids and the projects, and so still have a hand in that too. But in the beginning of 2024, I wanted to get into more consulting. I had already joined the International Log Builders Association and was on the historic restoration committee. But the fellow that was in charge of that and had been with International Log Builders, he died suddenly, probably from COVID related things, but that happened in 22. And so it was just myself, and then a couple more builders came in. So we're trying to build that to a little bigger organization in the in the International Log Builders Association, which is headquartered in Canada. And we, again, they had their 50th anniversary this year at the Chateau Montebello in Canada, which is the largest log home structure in the world, which seemed appropriate. And we also did a workshop there because that structure is under constant maintenance and repair. So we did a workshop there replacing logs and doing some seminars on how to do that as part of their 50th anniversary meeting that they had there. So in addition to that, at Sashco, which is one of the larger manufacturers and selling products for log homes, including chinking, caulk, stains, and sealers, they asked me to come in and help teach their classes that they have every winter in January, February, and March. They put on a week of classes for log restoration, log stain application, and business practices too. So they bring people in that from the industry like myself to help teach those classes. So if somebody's interested in getting into this industry, that's probably one of the better places to start, just to get the basic information. And then from that, I decided to start consulting, people that were new to the industry that needed, help on how they're going to run their business, how they're going to bid. And the main effort is to keep them profitable and keep them out of trouble. So I have 6 people that I actually mentor, on that, and just on a, hourly basis that we charge to help them both bid a job and, anticipate what it's going to cost to bid it and build it or fix it and kind of, figure out what kind of problems we're going to run into in the process. So that's been fun and I've enjoyed it. And we've had a few challenges with a couple projects because most of them we're doing through FaceTime or something. So I'm not there with the hands on, but I did spend a week in Idaho this summer teaching a crew how to chink a log home, which was enjoyable too. So I still get to keep my hands in the industry that way. So
yeah, you're a hands-on guy.
I've had a hard time not using these things. They've been busy for a long time. So
Yep, given by God. Let's keep them busy.
yeah.
Okay.
And it's actually kind of my mission field. I had 4 painters up there that none of them, had any idea of what Jesus Christ had done for them. So I got to share the gospel too. So
That's cool.
I feel like I can, it's part of my mission to witness to other people while I'm out there helping. So.
Awesome. So Herb Meeker is the expert who's done the restorations, took that knowledge from restorations to fix issues proactively for new log homes going out and building log home building. Has moved now into mentorship. Has had his hands in quite a few log home companies in this whole process, and is doing this mentoring to level up the next generation of people in this. That's what I'm hearing. Did you find, or have you seen for like those issues? Because like now I'm like going back to my own like adventure of my quest to learn everything I can and thinking about a log home. And what I heard you say was that there was a lot of issues that you were seeing in these restoration projects, and you're like, we got to proactively fix that. Has pretty much everybody in the industry caught up with those fixes?
I would say so. I don't see the issues that we saw 30 years ago, but we still see log homes built in places they shouldn't be built. I mean, I've been involved as an expert witness on a couple. The design was not, some designer designed it from, 1,000 miles away and never set foot on the site before the design began. And, there's, people think that, building inland in the Sierra Nevadas mountains that we have here, that, you're kind of protected from storms, but these storms come from the Pacific Ocean and they can dump, a matter of hours, 2 or 3 inches, of wind driven rain. So if your home is not intact or protected, it will, infiltrate, through any weak area it can find. And so, that's what we're finding is people still build these in the wrong places. There are wrong places to build log homes.
So when you say expert witness, you actually mean like lawsuits going on that you stepped in and said, hey, by the way, this is
and that
common.
I've done that over the years, and it's probably more of my expertise now. Although the log homes are being built a little smarter, and the manufacturers are not making the same mistakes. But there still are some issues out there that I'm brought into, as an expert for that.
Okay. Yeah, I was talking with Donald Parsons. I don't know if you know Donald Parsons from Appalachian Log Structures. No. He's been in the industry for quite a while as well. Appalachian Log Structures been out there for quite a while. And he said, I could tell you the horror stories. I could tell you where the dead bodies are buried. I love the way that come across. It's like, because he was telling me that, the education of the log home dreamer, right? You want to get educated. You want to be able to build. You want to be able to realize the log home dream. And he was telling me that, of projects that got started, they ran out of money. They didn't realize like how expensive it was going to be to finish the house on the inside. They're just totally disconnected with the pricing reality. And part of that was misrepresentation of information from the sales of a particular log home manufacturer, because they're driven to drive the sale. They got to make the sale. They got to make the sale. And a lot of those guys have a lot of pressure on them to perform to a certain level. So they're trying to sell these homes. And then, a couple builds this house, and then they've got the shell up and they've started to finish it on the inside. And they realize, holy smokes, it's going to take another 100 grand to finish this home, or more than that.
Exactly.
And then they're kind of like sunk. They've got a construction loan out with the bank. They've got fuzzy numbers from the log home manufacturer and for the quotes for finishing whatever needs to be finished. And they're left without their dream. They're left in financial trouble, and they just feel crushed by what was going to be a dream for them is now crushed. And now you're nodding your head. So you've seen this in the industry. Can you speak to that a little bit, and what wisdom you could offer, excuse me, what wisdom you could offer somebody who's coming into this from the front end, who's got a dream? What would you tell them?
Well, you've got to be realistic about what this log home is going to cost. And a lot of times it's a dream that these people have. And, so it's an emotional decision, either the husband or the wife. And, I've seen it from both sides, have this concept of their dream log home. And unfortunately, they talk to the manufacturer first before they talk to a builder. And so the manufacturer, of course, their drive is to sell the product, and so they sell the product to them, and they may even take delivery before they have permits, before they have the site work even done, and know what all the costs are going to be. So and I would have to say in the restoration side of my business, I have to say I've seen at least 100 log homes that have never been completed because of exactly what you're talking about.
Oh
They got
gosh,
they got
100
the oh yeah,
that you've
they got
seen.
the roof on, and they got some of them, they've stuck some plywood, or we just worked on one last year. The upstairs was not finished. They moved into the downstairs, and it's been like that for 20 years. They never got the money together to finish it. But even more recently, this year, we've been involved in a couple new log homes, which California hasn't had many new log homes come in. And there seems to be a little bit of a rush recently. And I've visited these 3 different log homes, and all of them had in common that they purchased these log packages, and they sat either on site or at a storage yard, one for a year and a half, the other one for 2 years. The latest one was 3 years. It's in a coastal area. And, they're wanting me to media blast and get it ready before the rain comes, which it had already come. I said, that's not even, possible. You don't have the roof on. And so I still see it being done in the industry where the product is sold and delivered before the permit process and all the everything is in place to make this log home happen. Fortunately, these seem to be pretty wealthy customers, so they're kind of biting the bullet on media blasting a brand new log package once the roof's on, and that's what we're proposing, and that's what we've done on one of them. But that's been typical of the industry for years, that they contact the manufacturer without necessarily having a builder that knows log homes and knows the costs and the different steps. So it's been in the 38 years I've been in the industry, it's been happening over and over. And it used to be worse. I actually bought several log packages from people in Southern California, which it's extremely difficult to get permits there. They just had given up on getting their permit, and they contacted me because I was a dealer for that company and said, "Can you sell this for me?" So we actually sold several kits that were sitting on on a parcel couldn't be built, and we, moved them someplace else and built them. So
Wow.
that's happened for years. So
Wow. All right. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with
okay.
Herb Meeker, extraordinaire log home expert. We'll be right back. My name is Dana, and welcome to the Log Home Network. We are here to help you get connected with the right log home expert. Whether you are ready to get started on your log home dream or are already a log home owner looking to maintain or expand your current log home, we are here to serve you. Getting connected with log home experts is super easy. Just go to loghome.net, select your needs, and search by city or zip code to be presented with a list of experts ready to help you on your log home journey. If you don't know exactly what you are looking for, don't worry, we have you covered. Simply scroll down on the loghome.net homepage and fill out the Log Home Expert Connection form, and we will help you get connected to the right expert. Don't let your log home dreams fade. Go to loghome.net right now and connect with friendly industry experts that are ready to help you. Meeker Logs, let's see, you named like 3 or 4 companies that you've been involved in, expert, and now a coach and mentor in the log home industry. Herb, let's go back to the idea that somebody is starting from scratch, because it sounds like a lot of headache, a lot of nuisance, a lot of frustration could be avoided on the front end of this, log home dream, log home planning. It seems to me that the first thing is that somebody is either already going to have land or not have land. So let's try to kind of like shelve the idea of land, because we don't know whether or not they have land or don't have land. What is the first thing that they need to do if this, let's say it's a young couple, family, they want to, they don't want to go, extravagant. They want, something that's, let's say 1,000 square feet on one floor, and they're going to build it over a full foundation. I'm just proposing an idea here for somebody's situation. What is the first thing that they should do?
Well, they should talk to somebody that's definitely built log homes before or has a little bit of a background in it, so they know what's going on with the log home. But even more important than that, if they're considering, a remote piece of land or a difficult site, I mean, many places these log homes end up are places that are, there's 5 miles of dirt road and and a logging trail to get to it. So access and getting power to it, getting materials to it, and there's a lot of considerations in that they should start with even before they necessarily buy the the log package or start their dream home, because some of those costs are gonna they're gonna affect how much of a home you can do. Early on in this industry, we had lots of people that mom and pops built their own log home. We called them kind of the Mother Earth group, because they were the hands-on people back then that were building themselves. And up until about 2001, 2002, that was the last one that was kind of an owner builder one that I was involved with. We assisted a lot of families building their log homes themselves. So again, even in those, usually they brought us out to see the site. And so we could, give them advice as to orientation of the log home, maybe where to put the porches to protect it, the nearest power. It's pretty expensive in California for some reason to get power, 500 feet to a house. I mean, you can spend $25,000 for that. Wells are expensive. Sometimes a septic system can be expensive. If it's in difficult soil conditions or near a river or near a lake. So there's lots of site considerations that really need to be made even before you decide to do the structure. So that's what we recommend first. And I do that kind of of consulting even now with people that are considering log home, to where we kind of start with the site and the possible costs of that, and then kind of size the log home and orientate it, to best fit the site, and then, kind of guide them on that budget as to, what their expectations should be. If they've only got 400,000 or 500,000, then yeah, it may only be a, 800,000 square foot log home at that point.
Yeah. So, okay. So talk to a builder. It sounds like that is key. But one of the problems is this family, this young couple with kids or whatever, they go online and they look up log homes, log home plans. They end up naturally not talking to a builder, but
Right.
getting connected with a log home manufacturer. And I know some log home manufacturers, like they front load their conversations with the customer by bringing in a builder and start having conversations to that effect as soon as possible. But for those that are just driven by numbers of sales, that can kind of get short sheeted. And you start getting a dream in somebody's eyes and they want it. They've got to have it.
Yeah.
And then it never even gets built, ends up like one of those 100 that you've seen. So where do they, in this world, this technological age, it seems like somebody should just be able to go and find a log home builder like that. Is that real? How do they do it?
It is in some areas, back in Tennessee, there's quite a few manufacturers in Appalachian, and on the East Coast, there's a fair amount of the log home shows and industries, and they are doing some of this warning that I'm actually sharing here too in those seminars. On the West Coast, the log home seminar industry doesn't show up here anymore. They were in Portland, I think, a year or two ago, and they get as far as Denver. So if you're out here on the West Coast, there's not all the shows and the industry, that we once had. I mean, it happened at one time, but there's still log home builders out there. A lot of them are aging out like I am, so they're better off to look for somebody that even has done it in the past and can mentor them with even a new builder too. There's that opportunity out there for the next generation. So
get your, it's okay to spend some time looking at some plans and thinking about what a dream home might be, but don't get too caught up in any of it until you've talked to a builder. And really, honestly, if you don't have land, that's going to be a problem for you.
The land is the first thing they've got to do. Yeah. Because
got to get land.
Yeah.
But if at least they know kind of what they're looking for, they might be able to bring, a log home. I'm thinking they might talk to a builder and maybe can start a conversation about land in a particular area before they actually even pull the trigger on the land, because then they find out, oh gosh, where we actually wanted to put the home is should have thought about that. It's a little too wet. It's a nice spot, but
right.
And now we've got to build it so far off the road that, we've got power issues. We're going to have drainage issues. All of these things are going to add to the price of the project. It would have been better in the front end to just maybe buy a piece of land that made maybe more sense than to start down that road and only to realize, we're going to either have to sell this property now and get another piece of property, or they've started and then realize that they have a problem because maybe they didn't talk to the builder.
And they would join those people that have gone down that road, where they might have a roof on their log package and be out of money. And it's an unfortunate place to be, but we do see it, in 38 years, I've seen it lots of times. So.
Wow. So they start this process. They've talked to, so number one, if you're out there listening and you're trying to learn about this like I am, number one, talk to a pro, somebody that's a builder. Make sure that you start a conversation, find somebody online. We're going to be trying to get some of these people on loghome.net. If you are a log home builder, you want to get on loghome.net so that we can help you be in a network of people where these log home dreamers like me, you could come in and be able to get connected, please reach out to us. I mean, I want to make sure that the process has integrity to it. It's not just getting a package sold to somebody, that there's an integral process behind this that is like, it's more linear. It's not like all this fuzzy stuff like, oh, just kind of go get a plan and kind of go do this and figure out these things as you go. Be much better to and probably some of this conversation starts out with a good land agent and broker, I'm guessing.
Right. I would suggest that knows that particular area too, and some of the restrictions.
Knows what you want to do with the property, that you're going to put a log home on it. Because a land agent broker, other than different than a realtor, is going to be able to probably make considerations that are specific to building on a piece of property rather than just selling something that's already on it. So
correct. And sometimes they're built in subdivisions too, which don't have as many requirements. They do have restrictions, but the power may be there and the water, and there's some benefits of that too. And part of the reason I even got in the restoration business in California now, it's cheaper to buy an existing log home and fix it up than to build one, just because of new construction costs. So it's hard to convey that to people that this home's going to cost $500-600 a square foot, depending on the amenities that you put in it. And so people, they tend to not want to believe that, but it really is a reality. I mean, even conventional homes are running $400 or $500 a square foot in California because of all.
California's probably on the high end of all of this because of the permitting and everything that's in, and what do they have different restrictions and things that
the permitting process is more stringent. I mean, in addition to that, we have to have fire sprinklers in every home. That's right. That's throughout California. In certain areas of the mountains, we have to have tempered windows. We have to have water storage for the sprinkler system. And certain building materials can't be used because of the fire restrictions. And the ICC just had a big hearing in San Diego or Long Beach that I attended, and there's more restrictions coming down the pipeline. So they're making it harder and harder to build a log home in California for sure. And the ICC is international, so that will probably be seen in the next at least 10 years across the United States. So.
Yeah, I just got back from a trip from Maine. I visited Ward Homes, Ward Cedar Log Homes. Okay. Talked with the guy up there, Ron. He took me through the plant and everything. He spent like almost 3 hours with me, just chatting and driving me around and showing me stuff. And it was great. But Maine, is really probably on the other end of a lot of these restrictions right now. They're really behind. You don't have to have a sprinkler system, and to my knowledge, I mean, maybe there's some cities that require that for log homes, but I mean, there's places in Maine, there's towns in Maine that you don't even need to have a building permit. Right. You can do your own electric, you can do your own plumbing, and then after you're done, you have a tax assessor come out from the town. Actually, you don't even have to tell them; they're just going to show up, right?
they always
assess your property. They just and that's the process. So a place like Maine is probably going to be a lot less per square foot to complete your home than a place where you've got to make sure you've got the sprinkler system and all of these things exactly in place. And I've even heard, and this one's ridiculous to me, in Western North Carolina, I heard there's something coming down for all of the every new construction has to have an EV charging station, an electric vehicle charging station, which out west, Western North Carolina, it just doesn't seem that it makes good logical sense for that, but that's what I heard.
Well, they're trying to be, leading edge. I mean, California already has that requirement, but unfortunately, California leads in some of these, and some of these other states feel like they have to follow. Unfortunately, so
yeah. Kit size, like you've dealt with, from everything on up through from camp size all the way up through, homes? You've done kind of seen the gamut.
Right.
Have you?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
we, we're not prejudiced to, to small or large. If somebody, wants to do it and the budget works out, we've always done. I mean, we've done one as small as 660 square feet. Um, but most of them are more in the 2000, the mid range, and we've built several that were between 4 and 5,000 square feet too. So, yeah, they pretty well run the gamut, and some of them, some of them were second homes on the property for guests. So those were smaller homes too. So I had one customer that we built 2 log homes on the property, and they had another log home up higher in the mountains, and so we maintained that for them and maintained their other 2 homes up until they sold it a few years ago. So we have customers that are, we've maintained their home since they built it 30 some
Mm.
years ago. So
Talk to us about the why. Like, I know it's going to be different for a lot of people, but what's the why for you? Why log homes, and why have you spent so many years invested in this industry? You've had your hand in a lot, and now you're kind of taking it to the next level with mentoring. It's not even like you're punching a ticket to get out. You still want to invest in this. There's got to be, a reason behind that. So, can you speak to that a little bit for us?
well, the passion kind of comes with working with wood and working with my hands, initially, and probably started as a young man, you know looking at log books and things like that. The log magazines didn't show up until the late 70s, really. So my interest in wood and logs, came from more of just a feeling or a passion of being, in the woods and hiking. I've done a lot of hiking in this year. I was in climbed Mount Whitney and different, mountains here that are, in my back door where I live. And so, log homes are kind of the next thing to being in the mountains and the coziness of it. But more than that, I really did enjoy working for people that wanted log homes. Different, they're different people, even though they're still doctors and attorneys. They are people that are more sympathetic to some of the struggles you have with construction. They're more sympathetic to getting a finished product that suits their needs and their budget, and so it's somewhat filling that passion of making the customer happy that I've enjoyed. And even as I've gone into the restoration business, we've taken what some would call, just an ugly pig snout, and we've made this, home look like it's pleasing and attractive, with new windows and new stains and new roof, and just it's appealing once more rather than a rundown, tired looking log home. So I've enjoyed that aspect of it too. Besides helping people achieve their dream of a new log home, I've helped a lot of people achieve, fixing up their tired log home into something that, they're proud of again too. So I guess that's part of my passion is working with people to accomplish their dream and accomplish what they're looking to, have at least the best they can afford. So
Yeah. So I hear you saying getting connected with nature is driven you to love to work with the wood and to work with your hands, but also at the same time to couple all of that with helping somebody realize their dream on the
right.
other end, what they're looking for. What now it doesn't to you, I hear that it sounds like that doesn't matter whether it's building, from the ground up or if it's they want to buy something and have it restored and that you're involved in the process there as well. Can you tell us about like just one of those, give us a feel good story, like one of those moments that you're just like, oh, that was so worth it. It made you smile, made you, come home, tell your wife about it. And just what's one of those stories for you?
Well, it started way back when we were building log homes. In fact, we just put a new door in it the other day. So this story kind of came back to me, but it was the husband worked at a newspaper, and it's back when newspapers were read, and it was probably in the late 80s, and the wife was a school nurse at the old high school where I went to, and they were building it with family and friends. And so, um, I was there for, I think, 4 weekends helping them on Saturdays, kind of just coordinating the crew that they put together, make sure nobody got hurt and the logs went up right. And at the end of the day, one day, we were just kind of sitting around talking, and she goes, "You know what I've enjoyed about this?" She goes, "My guns are a lot bigger." She just lifts up her arm and she goes, and she was out there working with the kids and everything else, but it was, it was a family building their dream, and I guess, being a part of that, and that happened over and over, where, you get the roof on, and there's just kind of, there's some sort of dinner or celebration, and people are, we're still friends and happy to be friends, years later. So, another thing, we just finished a new roof on a home I built 32 years ago, and the lady had recently lost her husband, and so, she's calling me for decisions besides just her home. But when we got done with the new roof and fixing the fascia and all these things, she goes, "Thanks for being there for me all these years and helping me through keeping this log home maintained." So I don't know that there's some rewards to that are, you know, and I'm not looking for, I'm looking for my rewards in heaven too. But there's some benefit and satisfaction from people saying, "Hey, thanks for helping us take care of this home all these years and keeping it looking good." So
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Herb, it's been a real treat to talk to you. Oh, I do have one more question. Off grid, have you done any homes that were like completely off grid, solar, wind, or whatever?
yeah, I've actually done 5 log homes that are off grid, and and that has evolved a lot over the last, I think the first one was 15, 18 years ago. And it was just a few solar panels without any battery backup and with generators. In fact, the first one was this one we just put a roof on. It was totally off grid. And so those systems have evolved, and the new roof was because they've changed the solar panels 3 times over 32 years, and all these old holes in the roof, and they had leaked and weren't patched right and things. So the latest one I put together, and it's 7, 8 years old now, but it has totally tracking solar panels that track the sun all day long, has generator backup. It has German, they're the gel batteries that are inside the house for backup. And this fella's pretty advanced. He's got a Tesla, and the first time he came up there, he plugged in his Tesla at night and ran the whole battery bank down. And so there's kind of a learning curve with these off-grid homes, and I've had to learn it too, because I'm usually the first one they call when they say, "Hey, everything's dead and we can't get the thing booted back up." And not that I'm an expert. I'm an expert at kind of getting it back online. As
I have a
yeah,
mug
turn
here.
it off
Have
again.
you tried turning it off and on again?
Well, that's about what it is with
Yeah.
like a computer. You got to kind of shut everything down with the system and then start it back up with the generator. So it's the
Yeah.
same kind of the same thing. But yeah, I've enjoyed those off grid ones, but they definitely there's some cost to it, and people need to look into that carefully, because it's not like putting a $15,000 set of solar panels on your house. If you're totally off grid, you definitely need a generator for backup, batteries. You can keep your lights on during the night, and a full system. They've come down. That system we did, 7 years ago was over 100,000, and I think now it's probably 70, 80,000. But they're for a large home, it's a pretty complicated system, really. So.
Yeah, and you have to calculate. I've done assessments with energy before, and you have to use the right good calculations that tell you really about how many hours on average you get for sun in your different seasons. And I mean, in Maine, it's something like 6 hours of average sunlight, but in the winter, it's something like, 3.
Yeah,
It's like,
I don't doubt.
this is
Yeah.
dark. It's dark and
Yeah,
red.
we've had this system go down several times because of that. A storm will be here for a week and everything's, shuts down. Or we've had several fires over the last 5 years and just smoke will block out the sun and cause it to be ineffective too. So there's lots of factors and if you're not living there, it's even more complicated because, you're nobody's there to really monitor all the time too. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, a lot of log home dreamers, as they're listening to this, they're going to be like, oh, this is, I don't want to, now I'm kind of scared out of my dream. What would you tell them, those that are just kind of like, because this is a dose of reality, right?
Right.
And if your dream's really worth it, you're probably going to figure out a way to make it happen. But what would
You
you
will.
say to encourage those that are just kind of like, they're on the front end of all of this, like me, trying to learn everything I can. What would you tell them what's that piece of advice you can give them that helps them to hang on to really chase the rabbit trail down instead of just giving up?
Well, yeah, keep the dream in front of you, but you got to be realistic about the dream too. So you got to do your homework on what the different elements of this home are going to cost. If it's off grid, that's another expense. If it's a long ways from the grid and you're going to tie it in, that's an expense. And wells and septic tanks, site work. I mean, we've had people take off the top of a mountain to put their log home there. So there's just a lot of expenses that you need to kind of anticipate, if you're going to work on a budget. I mean, there are people that have unlimited funds for these, but we haven't ran into too many of them, but over the years. But so you have to be realistic about what it's going to cost and do the homework and don't get too emotional at first. Because I've seen lots of those log home salesmen, probably guilty of it sometimes myself, in trying to get a deal. You're saying, well, if you sign up now before the end of the year, you're going to save 10%. And if we deliver it by May, you won't have this other price increase. And so it's easy to have this guy talking in your ear about, saving money, but really the money that's going to be saved is figuring out what it's going to cost you to do it in the first place, so you don't overspend or overbuild or over dream, what your really log home, dream is about. So
yeah, we're talking about log home. We're talking about a home. We're not talking about a used car. It shouldn't be that there's all this pressure to make a decision. You're talking about a lot of money, talking about big investment. And going back to one thing you said before, talk to a builder. Get that on the front end of your conversation.
Yes.
Herb, this has been a great treat. Any last words?
Well, talk to the experts out there. We're theloghomeexpert.com. That's our new website. So you're welcome to delve in and give us a call and at least chat, if you want to get a little advice up front. And not that we know a lot of builders in different areas of the country. We do have a lot of connections in the industry that we can kind of go, put them on the rabbit trail to find builders in that area. So that's, definitely something that we would advise, and do some research on your builder too. Don't just go with the first guy you talk to necessarily. Some of them are
theloghomeexpert.com.
theloghomeexpert.com. And yeah, I need to get that set up on your log home net, also. So we'll talk about that more too.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to do that. Let's get that out there, and as a resource for people to get connected, and start logical conversations in the right place, instead of going out of order. So let me take your money and then let's figure out how to get you a home.
Exactly.
Let's start in a different direction.
Exactly.
Herb, this has been a real treat. I want to thank you so much for being with us today. This is the debut episode of the Log Home Network podcast, and we're kicking it right off just right with the log home expert with many years under his belt. We won't talk about how many, but many, a lot of notches, right?
Yes.
So thank you so much for being with us today.
Okay. I appreciate the time.
Thank you for being with us on this episode of the Log Home Network podcast. If you are searching for your log home dream, I invite you to check out loghome.net. I hope that you go and build that awesome log home that you've been dreaming about. If you are a log home expert and would like to guest on this program or learn about our advertising options, I invite you to reach out to me directly, Dana, D-A-N-A, at loghome.net. Catch you next time.